Hi, this is Sheri Ann Richerson from experimentalhomesteader.com, and what we're going to do here today is make a Himalayan salt rose blend that I can then use to add to other spice blends or use it alone. I've started out with 2 tablespoons of this fine grained Himalayan pink salt. As you can see, it is pink. And I have some partially dried rose petals from the Apothecary rose that I grow. When you use rose petals, you do want to make sure they're grown organically. I have 6 or 8 rose petals. I may end up adding some more salt. As I said, they are partially dried because I did want to rinse them off when I brought them inside and let that water dry up. These are just some herb scissors that I have. I bought these at Meijer, I believe, in the canning section. And the reason I'm cutting these petals up instead of using them whole is I'm wanting to break the cells of the rose petals up so that more of the essential oils, which is your flavor, actually can go into the salt. And my scissors came with, because I noticed these are sticking in here, my scissors came with this little cover that also allows me to push the rose petals out. Okay. And you don't have to cut the petals one at a time. If you want to grab a handful, you can do that and just cut along. Some pieces may end up being larger than others, but that's okay because as these dry, the scent is going to absorb into the salt. And I chose to work with fresh rose petals instead of dried ones because I can just put this salt in my dehydrator, or I can leave it lay out and dry naturally, whichever way that I prefer to go with. But I just felt that the fresh petals would release more fragrance into the salt. Like I said, we're just going to keep going here until this whole stack I have is cut up. I like these herb scissors a lot better than trying to do this by hand. It really does simplify my life. I have just a few petals that, like I said, had started to dry pretty well on their own. So I just wanted to toss those in. They did need cut up. And then what I'm going to do here, once I feel like I've got most of my petals out of my blades and out of my holder, is I'm just going to take this. I think that's a little too big. And I'm going to blend it in with the salt really well. Okay, because as I said, we want the salt to absorb the scent. And then probably what I'm going to do from here, I think I'm going to put this in a jar, like a canning jar. It should be glass. And I'm just going to let this salt start to soak up the scent. As I said, I could dehydrate this to help dry these petals, and I probably will after a day or two. But I think to start with, I'm just going to let the salt naturally absorb as much of the scent as it can. I wanted to give you an update on this rose sea salt. Again, I used the pink Himalayan sea salt. I used rose petals from the Apothecary rose. I think I used six whole roses, and then I sliced up the petals. And what I ended up doing was I ended up putting a generous layer of the Himalayan sea salt on the bottom of this little jar. And then, as you can see, I layered it. I did use the salt and rose petals that I had mixed up earlier, but I added an additional layer of salt, like I said, on the bottom. I added pure Himalayan sea salt between the layers, and then I covered the top with another layer of Himalayan sea salt. I did end up using this entire container, which is approximately 90 grams or 3.17 ounces. And this is what I've come up with. I'm going to put this lid on to seal it. And I'm going to put this in a cool, dark, and dry place. I'm going to check it once a day to make sure everything is still okay with it. And I'm going to let it set for 2 to 3 days or so until I feel like the salt has absorbed as much of the scent as it possibly can. And then I will probably put this into my dehydrator and go ahead and dehydrate it to make sure it's completely dry. Then I'll put in a couple food grade silica gel packs to keep any moisture from forming in it.